Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Guess what I'm doing this morning? Sound like Mr. Rogers. I'm doing a bit of hooking in the 5 minutes leading up to the show. Good morning, everybody. Happy Wednesday. Happy Wednesday. I'm going to show you what I'm working on in just a minute. Just getting a few more little loops in there. Monthly kit time. Good morning. Let's see. Let's switch out these glasses first. Today is the day I finally got in touch with the doctor, the optometrist, because as soon as I exited the office after doing my eye test months ago, I immediately lost the piece of paper. And ever since then, I've been writing to say, can I have the piece of paper because I can't see anything. And every time I call, there's like a half-hour wait. I think I'm finally getting glasses, and I may be able to stop this switching back and forth between 3 prescriptions. Good morning, Linda. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Beverly. Good morning, Martha. Super dreary day, too. A good story is going to cheer us up. Just to change, sometimes I'm so in a groove with things. I guess that's how I can control busyness, and moods and things like that. But today, I just had this feeling when I woke up of, it is so dreary again. Like, what is going on? Because it was so warm and beautiful. I mean, the flea market this weekend, I was just sweating my whatever's off and just miserably hot. And now it just seems like, biblical type rain is never going to end kind of a thing. Of course it will. And it'll be so nice when it does. But it made me think, about books and cozying up. And I just didn't feel like opening the Kent book again. I don't know why, because I enjoy it immensely. I just felt like a change of everything. So we'll get to that in just a second. It's a really nice plan I have for us today. Kirsten, good morning. You know what? I'm all caught up on orders, which means I could use some more orders, number one. And number two, the kits that I'm getting out to people who are helping me with hooking, I can do that today. So that's so nice. I can finally finish the border on my mom's birthday rug from last November. So I'll show you that tomorrow. You probably will recognize it. I still haven't finished it. It's been busy. It's been busy for a while. Joy and Sue's good morning. Kansas and Florida sounds so good. Robin, good morning. Oh, it's a sunny morning in Wisconsin. I'm super happy for you. You deserve some sun. In Wisconsin, that's kind of ironic, isn't it? I mean, we're just switching out rain. We're just switching climates, I guess. Sheila, good morning in Benton City. I have to update you on the monk's cloth, Sheila. It is turning into be a bit of a bear. We'll talk about it tomorrow during Zoom. I'm still using it, but it's a bit of a bear. Penny, good morning. Happy coffee time. Amber, happy coffee time. Good to see you all. Chrissy, happy hump day. That's right, it's the hump day, which is always a good feeling, right? I remember when I was at school and when I used to work like in an office, how nice it was when it was the hump day. You felt like you were just, well, halfway there, right? But also happy Cinco de Mayo today, the 5th of May, right? I should have thought of that and planned a pattern or something. I'll put out a free pattern again soon, I promise. Maybe it will be that kind of a theme. Wish I would have thought of it a week ago or even 2 days ago. So happy Cinco de Mayo. And also in the Netherlands, it's Liberation Day. On this day, I guess it must have been 1945, I'm assuming, Amsterdam was liberated by the Canadians, I'm pretty sure. Marched in and took over. So that's a big day there. It's not always a holiday like a school work holiday, but it is a very big deal. It's a very big deal. It would be like our Independence Day, right? But more modern times. Chrissy, Linda, good morning from down east Maine. Oh God, one of my favorite places in the whole world. In the whole world. Kate, good morning from DC. Welcome. And April, good morning. Please thumbs up, like all of that stuff, comment, and you are. Thank you so much. Let's think about business first. What do I have to tell you? I'm getting there with this kit. Now, the sheep, right? This is going to be the monthly kit I'm a little bit late with, but it's a coming. This was the original design that I drew. I showed you my trace design. I boxed it out a little bit better, but that was the original character. Hey, Mom, you made it. You made it. So I've been working on him. I've got my skin saver around the edge because my skin was just getting ripped to what's. But let me get rid of that. So he's coming along. And remember yesterday I showed you that pretty antique brown that I made that I was going to use for his face. I don't know what happened. I accidentally drank a beer in the afternoon, cut up the brown, and mailed it to somebody in a kit, which is fine. It's going to be a great kit, but I was really looking forward to using it for the highlights. So later today, I'm going to do another antique brown. I'm going to use that same thing. I'm going to use it, but I was just frustrated that I did that because it brought me to kind of a grinding halt with his face. So I got going on him. I got going on the plaid background. I've got some directional hooking going on. This is all going to be optional, obviously. You do it however you want to do it. This is, I always have to do a crazy color. This is like a casserole color that I did on a sort of light purple background. I'm just using one. Oh, thanks, Chrissy. I'm just using one row. Yeah, I might do 2 rows. I lie. I might do 2 rows around the edges. I really like that color. These sort of, the background colors, it's like dove gray, lilac, a darker purple with a lot of mixed colors in it. And I've got actually 2 different greens going in the background. There's a lighter and a darker. I don't know if you can tell by looking at this, but he's a rectangle shape, and I started using, oh, thanks, Martha. Is that what it is, a blue-faced Lester? I don't know anything about sheep, but it sounds good. It sounds good to me. He's going to be a brown-faced Lester as soon as I get that antique brown dyed up again, just for shadow. And I got to figure out how to do his little eyes. Thanks, Sheila, because I want them to be dark. But they do, like we were saying yesterday, they do have such a unique look from sheep to sheep. And they look so intelligent, sometimes their eyes, like goats, have that wild look, like there's something wrong. But they do have an intelligent kind of look. They always look so thoughtful and peaceful, meditative. But yeah, thanks, Mom. So I'm working on some mixed colors in the background. I really wanted to get in to the lighter colors, like I'm alternating the ones that I did as casserole. The light sort of grassy green that's a mix with some pops of lime and true grass color, and that purple that's a little bit darker than the lilac. Oh, reminds you of Scotland. That's probably because of the plaid, Tara, right? I'm trying to get some other colors in because, like I said yesterday, I was thinking with the May pattern about maypoles. Very complicated, right? Possible, but just complicated, because I'd like to think of the monthly kits as possible beginner kits too. This is hooking so fast, by the way, that it's crazy. It's just crazy. I didn't even work on it last night. I dyed 22 colors for the new set, and to be continued on that. And I just hooked it for like an hour this morning, and that's as far as I got. It's so fast. I'm hooking in number 8 and with that white chenille. And I really like the way the body's coming out with that chenille, right? But the original idea, and I'm leaving that sort of necklace shape because I am going to do Prati with that. I'm going to add some, like a little wreath of spring flowers to him. I was thinking first crown, and then I thought wreath. Let's stay away from the head and not create too much confusion around the face. But yeah, the back, I like the plaid background. Using the 2 different sets of colors really makes it look more like a plaid than a check, right? Than a checkered background. But I was thinking about May and maypoles and things like that, and just how much of a great sort of pagan celebration it is every spring. When I think about all the years I lived in England, and the Green Man, and all of these metaphors and sort of icons and little holidays, and all the dancing mummers and ribbons and color and everything, and just that long tradition that seemed, even when I was younger, so as a Puritan sort of New Englander, seemed so foreign to me, the idea of springtime and maypoles and greening, right? All these festivals and these long traditions that went back way before Shakespeare, because Shakespeare referred to the greening so often in his work. The idea that in May, and also Camelot, remember the book, the movie, the everything, the show Camelot, May, the lusty month of May, all of that. That whole idea that in May, sort of all bets were off, and there weren't a lot of rules, and there were certainly a lot of young women getting pregnant, and the idea of having these festivals where there could be this thing called greening, which literally meant that you were down and dirty in the grass with the person of your choice, getting green, getting your clothing green, rolling around in the grass together, seemed, even when I was younger and hipper, so naughty. But it was part of life, and it's been a cultural sort of British Isles thing for hundreds and hundreds of years. That's where the song Green Sleeves comes from, alas, my love, you did me wrong, and all of that. And also became the song What Child Is This, which is kind of ironic because it's a bit of a dirty song. But that whole green sleeves thing is about getting green in May when the weather turns and everybody's feeling happy and excited. We'll leave it at that. So I was trying to reflect a bit of that in the spirit of this by giving him this really wild, proddy, colorful wreath. Again, sort of like Shakespeare, sort of like Bottom, right? Remember when he has like the floral wreath around him? That kind of celebratory look with that wreath, but also keep the background colors not confusing, but bright enough that you feel like it's May. So I'm hoping that this is one of the images that's more successful for the monthly kits, and I'm hoping put you in the spirit of the month, because that's the whole point of the monthly kits. Otherwise, I would do a Halloween pattern in May and say, look it, you know you'll be done in time, but I never do that because I love to hook things that are current to where we are in our lives and where we are in the calendar. And I like to give you something that, you know, you sit down and it feels like it's May while you're hooking, even on a terrible rainy day like today. So I'm having a lot of fun with this pattern, and it's a to be continued. I'll probably be done for tomorrow, but I'm really enjoying myself in the meantime. Now later today I'll probably also put out the next design class, which is going to be moving on from designing like Magdalena, and we're going to move on to designing like Matisse. And we're going to be looking at still lifes and nudes, his very abstract and graphic work. We're going to be looking at, in the context of rug hooking, how you can use that sort of design philosophy, that kind of theory, modern art, bordering on pop art, how you can use that as a designer in your rug hooking. Whether you design and sell or not, you are a designer, and you can always alter your commercial patterns, like I see so many people do with Van Gogh skies, just a little bit here, a little bit there. We'll be talking about how to do that in the context of Matisse. We'll look at Van Gogh in the future too, because that's right there. That's the low-hanging fruit. I was trying to do some other ones before I got there because there's so much with Van Gogh out. But I think Matisse is going to be a really great one and very graphic, very different than this past month's Magdalena. So that will be coming out too. And you know, I am going to run cocktail time on Friday. I have the information for us for tomorrow for our Zoom call. If you want to Zoom at noon, I have the information in the body of this, hair in the eye or wool, in the body of this video for the Zoom tomorrow. I'll also post it on our Facebook page, Rug Cooking and Punch Needle Club. And then on Friday, I will run a slightly shorter, sort of more abbreviated cocktail night. But I am going to run it because I love to see you and I love for us to be together on cocktail night. Just thinking last weekend I ran a class. This weekend I'm running a class. And I wanted to kind of I'm going to probably be with my mom on Friday night. So maybe we'll run it together, Mom. I have a great idea for a Friday night cocktail night theme. But it'll probably be about an hour long. So I typically go 2 hours on Friday. But this week I want to save a little bit of Friday night for myself and my mom and hanging out and ordering food and stuff like that. But I will be on for cocktail night. And it will be, I'm not going to spoil it. But I have a funny, you know what, I am going to spoil it. I'm going to spoil it because I need your help. I'm not going to tell you exactly what I'm doing, but if you can, either write it here or send me at ribboncandyhooking@gmail.com funny sayings, famous sayings, funny sayings, proverbs, things that your family have said, you know, things that you've heard, things that stick with you, one-liners, right? Send me those because I could use those for Friday night. I have a fun idea. So those are things that are coming up. Now, man, what has happened to me, as long as it's not an active bug, you know how it's great when a bug flies right into your eyeball. So today, I thought looks like a quilt. Oh, thanks, Laura. Yeah, the background does look like a quilt, doesn't it? It's got that nice patterned background. Now I'm going to draw. If you end up getting this pattern, you know, it's much bigger than this. I have it all tucked up. But if you end up getting this pattern, I will draw the checker background because you know how crazy I am about having things squared out. But you know that if you want it smaller, more like a gingham scale, you can break it up even more, obviously. And if you want to go totally cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, you could break it up even more, putting shapes in, right? Dropping shapes and stuff in the background. Doing different things with, I'll give you the colors, of course, but you could certainly do different things with the colors and do all purples around him and all green toward the back. You could do all the purples lower and give more of a green sky or vice versa. Green hills and more of a purple sky for sunset. There's so many things that you can do with the background. I liked the plaid for this one, particularly because I can already envision that proddy, crazy, leafy necklace wreath popping up. But, you know, there's so many things that you can do altering someone else's pattern, and you should. You never have to ask me if you want to alter my pattern. I'm not one of those people who goes, oh my God, did you not use the color of pink I gave you in the kit? You know, and that I would never do that. As soon as it's yours, the more you alter my pattern and make it your own, the happier that makes me. So lots of possibilities with this one. This one should be up on the website tomorrow. We'll be Zooming, but look on the Facebook page or look at ribboncandyhooking.com because it'll be there. So story time. We rarely do this, and you know why? I mean, we talk about books all the time, but we rarely do what I'm going to do today, which is story time. I'm going to read you an excerpt from this excellent book. The reason we don't do this very often is because there are not a lot of references to rug hooking in books that are not rug hooking books. Can you think of any? I can think of one, and it's this book. It's very rare to find a book where somebody talks about rug making at all. This is actually rug hooking. And so I think, you know, when I think back to how I even got interested in rug hooking as a person who was making costumes for theater and quilting and doing completely sort of different things, I think it was this book. I mean, I don't remember, but I think it must have been this book. Because I remember when I first looked at this book, it's a 1962 book. It's called Sold to the Lady in the Green Hat by Emma Baily, America's first woman auctioneer. This is just a fantastic bedside book. I don't know how many copies are out there between Amazon, eBay, Abe Books. There should be some copies out there. It has a beautiful dust jacket, Dodd and Mead. Again, 1962, Emma Baily. Such a good book. She was from Vermont, and she was the first woman auctioneer. And this book is about, it's written by her, it's a memoir, very, very funny in the style of like Irma Bombeck, like that kind of just off the cuff, very funny, fast humor, and a little bit dated, you know, kind of like a Mr. Blandings builds his dream house kind of humor, like mid-century humor. But, you know, this story is so interesting in and of itself because she's a woman. She lives in a very rural part of Vermont. She wants to make a little bit of extra money for the family, and she decides to become an auctioneer. She's knowledgeable about antiques. She goes to a lot of country auctions. Do you remember the days when there were a lot of country auctions? Like everywhere, almost every night of the week, at least where I am, you know, in New England, there would be auctions in different towns. You could go to a different one every night. But she loved this culture. She loved this life, and she thought, why not me? And she quickly finds out in the book that why not her is because she's a woman. And these are, you know, there's a lot of livestock auctions and antique auctions. But she finds that she meets a lot of resistance as a woman who is trying to do this job. She gets a lot of pushback from men. You know, I'm not a great feminist, and that's not why I love this book. I love this book because it's quaint and charming and fun, but it is interesting to see a woman hero like this that really pushes back and really has her way in the end. And she tells so many funny stories in this book about things that happened to her along the way, the learning curve, being like lured out to these remote farmhouses outside New York City with really shady people that come to meet her and tell her to just empty the whole house and put it up for auction, and, you know, they'll pick up the money. And she gets the impression from time to time that, you know, it's not the person's house, that they just like went out to someone's summer home and got inside, broke in, and is having her empty it. There's all kinds of scenarios that happen, I guess, when you're an auctioneer and you're a new one and people think you're gullible, but it's filled with interesting and funny stories. And it has so much atmosphere that it's crazy. For people who like antiques, certainly, but for people who liked hooked rugs, she's got almost an entire chapter devoted to her dream of making a hooked rug runner for the stairs. Runner, bless you, for the stairs. Not just a runner, not just a welcome mat, you know, the whole 9 yards. Well, it's probably more than 9 yards at the end of the day. But I put this as the new thumbnail for today's episode because, you know, she talks at length. I'm going to read you. It's a long excerpt. That's why I'm calling today's story time. But, you know, you don't often get a scenario where, again, in a book like this, now it is a memoir, this is not a fiction book, where she talks about in depth the genesis of the idea for making a hooked rug, thinking about how, now, the interesting thing about it as I go along, and think about, in terms of what we know from Coffee Time, the history of rug hooking, she walks us right through how she's going to do it. She just has this idea, I really want a rug on the stairs. Her husband had just painted the stairs. I really want a rug there, but she's never made a hooked rug. So what does she need? This is the eternal problem that we still face. People constantly going, I would love to get into it. What do I need? It's not clear. What do I need? And so it's funny to see how somebody in the early 1960s tackles the problem of, I would like to make an enormous rug. What do I need? How she solves that problem. So I'm going to read part of this chapter to you because it's, I think, filled with little bits and pieces, little sort of hints and clues, relating to things that we've talked about many times. It really gives you the feel of somebody in the middle of the 20th century who's approaching rug hooking for the first time, and with different, obviously, supplies and possibilities and buying, selling outlets that we have now, how she figures out how to make it work. And here she is. She's so proper and put together. There she is with her husband, John, outside their farmhouse in Brattleboro, Vermont. Beautiful town. So cute, right? So cute. It reminds me of every book and movie I really love. So I'm going to do some paraphrasing here because it's a long chapter and it's a long excerpt, but I think it's interesting. So let me see when she talks about how they moved into this beautiful farmhouse. I wish we could see a picture of it. Maybe that's a trip to Brattleboro and doing some research at the Historical Society or whatever Hall of Records. She talks about how they moved into this beautiful farmhouse that we can only picture in 1949, fall of 1949. And she says the house was in such rundown condition. They had been, and she talks about this often in the book, renovating it for years. And they had become quite cash poor during the process of renovating this old farmhouse. It was this kind of a pipe dream, city people had. And they moved out after the war. They moved out to the country, and they bought this farmhouse. And she says they decided that they needed a runner for the stairs. And Jack had painted, I'm guessing she calls her husband Jack, had painted the stairway white, but they did so much running up and down the stairs during their years of renovating that it was already showing signs of wear. So her great idea was, this is her, a runner seemed to be the best solution. I shopped the stores and flipped through mail order catalogs, but the cost of runners long enough for our stairs was too much for us at the time when we were putting every available dollar into fixing up the house. That might sound familiar, right? The idea of how exciting. I'm a first time. Oh, Laura, you're wondering what you need. Well, we'll do a recap at the end of this excerpt because you basically need the same things, but I think we can make it even simpler nowadays. She says, the idea of making one came to me while sorting the family's winter apparel for the cold months ahead. Some of the woolens were too worn out to go another season, yet not bad enough to be thrown away. Aside from the seats and elbows, there was plenty of usable material. In addition, when skirt lengths had plunged from the knees to the ankles almost overnight, friends had passed on woolen suits and skirts to the girls, her daughters. She has 2 daughters. Some of them couldn't be made to fit and had to just be put aside. All told, we had quite a lot of material which could be used in making a runner. Jack was refinishing a table while the girls and I discussed what type would wear best, a braided rug or a hooked rug. Oh, I love Brattleboro too. Isn't it the sweetest thing? It's a good stop on the way to the country store. I'm guessing you do the country store in, what is it, Cheshire? I like the one in, what is it, the one that's much further up? Begins with a W. Weston. I like that one even better. They're all good though, aren't they? So they were deciding between doing the hooked rug or the braided rug. And she says, she was talking about it with Jack, and she says, why should you need, Jack says, why should you need me to do a rug job? He wants to know. Seems like you're all calling on me to help with women's work. But I don't see how you can manage to snare me into this one. So he's feeling very comfortable that he's not going to be included in the project of making the rug. And yet, if we decide on a braided runner, I assured him, your services will not be required. But if we make a hooked one, then I'll need you to make a frame. That's where you come in. Bump, bump, bump. Well, which is it to be? So we've just about made our minds up, I replied, this is Emma speaking in the first person, that we will make a hooked rug because it will look better and it will wear longer. Suppose I might as well vote with the majority, he said with a grin, even though it means another job for the man of all work. The following evening, Jack called on a friend who had recently finished making a frame for his wife, a rug hooking frame, and they discussed the problem together. Because of the length of the stair runner, our frame had to be stoutly made. What with all the work still to be done on the house, Jack didn't have any spare time. But by stretching the minutes in an hour, he completed it in the middle of January. The frame was heavy duty. It was a heavy duty affair, she says, requiring 2 people to move it. Now that is substantial. And it will undoubtedly last forever. If anyone would like to borrow it, they're welcome to it, she says in 1962. I wonder where it is now, right? Meanwhile, I had priced burlap downtown and received a shock. Even burlap was beyond our means. As I left the store, it occurred to me that burlap is nothing more than feed grain sacking, and we had a pile of burlaps in our barn. I asked Jack about them, and he said that they were set aside to be credited against the next purchase of grain for our cow Daisy and the chickens. Interesting, right? However, since I needed the bags to start the runner, he generously offered them as his second contribution to the project. I ripped the bags open and hung them out on the clothesline to let the sun and wind work them over. I thought that was interesting too. All these little asides, right? I wouldn't even think to do this now, but she opens them up and lets them sun out for whatever reason. After 3 days of airing, I stitched them together to the desired length. The selvages were turned toward the center, leaving about 27 inches for the hooking. So that's how wide it's going to be. Watching me pin the burlap on the frame, meaning I think thumbtacks, Jack became convinced that the immense job would never be done. The girls were excited and anxious to get started because they were to do the artwork. The treads would be worked in a hit or miss style, and there would be pictures on the risers. So we needed sketches that could follow. That I could follow. In other words, she's going to copy the girls' sketches and make them on the risers. The part that you stand on, she's going to do that hit or miss style. So we needed the sketches that I could follow. Emmy Lou was the art director. This is one of her daughters, while Parsley, who's the other one, makes the drawings. She was quite talented at sketching and painting. I was happy to have them do the creative work because I am unable to draw myself. The work was planned from the top down. On the uppermost riser would be the starting date, which was January 31st, 1951, in green. And the weather, that was the background, in gray, as the sky was low and cloudy with flecks of white and a little bit of snow falling lazily. When I began the hooking, my cohorts hung over the frame, watching the date take shape. As the sky was being worked, the girls constantly admonished me while handing me strips of wool and breathing down my neck. "Oh, don't put the snowflakes in straight rows," Emmy Lou cried out in dismay. "Drop them in here and there, crazy-like," Pars, the artist, suggested. So in other words, she's starting on the top step, and she has this great idea for the very top step, saying the very date that they started and showing the weather on that day. I think that is the most charming thing that I have ever heard. Jack also put in his 2 cents worth as he eyed the huge coil on the bottom roll of the frame. "Oh, brother," he exclaimed, "it'll take hundreds of strips and lots of hooking, pushing down and pulling up before all that burlap is coiled on the upper roll." So they've got it rolled up on the ground under this massive frame. We'll be lucky if even our grandchildren finish the runner. It's a whale of a job. We thought a black border would be nice, framing the runner against the white stairs. Needing black and other colors, there was also a member of the Baily family at every church and rummage sale, snapping up the odds and ends that could be used. A pair of white flannels from my husband's slimmer days went into the dye pot for the sky blue effects. For the second riser, the girls sketched the end house, the original building on our property, snuggled down in snow. So again, they're keeping the season going, and they're using the original dwelling that was on there. I guess it sounds like they leveled it or something. Can't remember. I didn't reread the whole book, but I think they leveled that little outbuilding. Snow, which had slid off the roof, exposing gray slate, was piled against a corner of the building, done in red with a green door and shutter. Snow and blue sky gave a pleasing overall effect. The work did not run as quickly as the telling, For though it wasn't the auction season, household tasks kept demanding my attention. However, every spare moment was spent at the frame. The roll of burlap seemed endless. Watching the girls gave me the idea for the third riser, which shows them out skiing. This is a record of their family. I mean, how amazing is this? I'm going to run over because I want to finish this. It's so sweet. The smaller figure at the top with her knees bent represents Estelle. The one at the bottom with her poles in her hand is Emmy Lou. Our dog is running alongside down the hill. The scene shows bare trees against a wintry sky. I was really getting into my stride now, and despite the fact that I have never done any hooking before, no picture idea seemed too ambitious. That's the spirit, right? Although I had no artistic talent whatsoever, I felt like a protege of Grandma Moses, which is interesting because she's kind of a contemporary of she's just after Grandma Moses and also in the same town, right? Also Brattleboro. For the fourth riser, the girls made a sketch of Chips, our Shetland sheepdog. Her colors are white and tan, and the children decided to show her napping on a dark blue rug, though we don't actually have one. The next riser depicts the hearth of our parlor, flanked by rockers and a fire blazing merrily. The sixth riser is at eye level when entering the center of the hall, so I hooked the word welcome, encircling it with a rainbow against a blue sky made out of her husband's flannel pants. The next riser pictures the only sketch that she drew herself. I'll never live it down, she said. I pictured our forsythia bush with its bright yellow, bell-shaped flowers against a stone wall in a spring sky. When the girls viewed my handiwork, they were horrified. I must admit that they were right, for everyone who has viewed my masterpiece since thinks that it's an apple tree laden with golden fruit. Nearly a year has passed since the runner. It was winter again, and we had to use our imaginations for the next two risers, which were summer scenes. So they're really working this seasonally. And of course, in the summer, she's doing auctions like constantly, so she's quite busy. One showed our tulip bed with the flowers in various colors. The other was our house in full glory in June with a clump of blooming lilacs. The 10th riser portrayed our two cats, Mother Cat, who was Tiger, and her baby, Fancy Pants. They were pictured on a braided rug with a big ball of blue yarn. Then a colorful autumn scene was worked in. It shows our cornfield under a full harvest moon. Stacks of corn shocks lean against a dark sky, and orange-colored pumpkins are scattered between rows of stubble. On the next riser is another fall scene with all its rich brown rust and bright gold of leaves falling from our large maple. In the foreground is our stone wall and Black Mountain Road where they lived. That's a good clue, right? I've got to hunt down Black Mountain Road. Heads east to meet the highway. The last runner records the finishing date in red. Stopping point, March 3rd, 1952. Against the weather for that day, which was piles of snow under a clear blue sky. Amen, we all said with a sigh of thankfulness after the runner was finally in place on the stairs. Gathered in the center hall, we viewed the result of our long hours of labor and congratulated ourselves immodestly. We ought to give it a name, Parr suggested. After all, paintings have titles. I have one, Jack says, which seems appropriate. What? We chorused. The Baily Totem Pole. And that is what our hooked rug is called to this day. If you are ever in the neighborhood, drop by and have a look at it. As the sixth riser proclaims, you are most welcome. Visiting time is from 10 to 4, the customary museum hours. How cute is that? And that's the end. It's not the end of the chapter, but it's the end of her description of the rug making. It chokes me up. I absolutely love everything about this passage because, you know, she starts from saying the winter clothes, some of them have moth holes, some of them don't fit, the styles have changed. She has a good sort of stash of wool in the attic. She has a need for the rug. She has a husband who can build a frame, and he's copying the husband next door who recently built a frame for his wife. They're collecting and they're sending buddies out to collect wool and old clothing at rummage sales and church bazaars and wherever they can find it. And, a few winters in a row, as long as it takes them, they are spending all their winter hours, mother and daughters, and Jack, the husband, working on this runner. And the story of the Baily totem pole is the story of their house, of this place, of the Four Seasons, of the dog, of the cat, and Fancy Pants, the baby. It's just it's such a beautiful story. And if you like that excerpt, that is all there is. If that's the part that you're interested in, then you've heard the part about the hook drug. But the whole book is interesting about antiquing and about her adventures and the things that they find. It's just a charming book. But I think it gives us a window into somebody who is obviously a very capable person, right? The first woman auctioneer in this country. She's a very capable person. So in answer to your question, Laura, I think it was Laura that asked, yep, you're a first-time hooker. You need material, and it doesn't even have to be wool. We often hook now with we do a lot of episodes on hooking with t-shirt material, just cut up jersey and stuff. You can hook with anything. If you want it on the floor, wool is going to be the most durable. If you want it on the wall, you do whatever you want. You can hook with yarn. You can hook with acrylic yarn from the craft store, whatever's available. And you don't need a cutter right out of the gate. Cutters are super expensive. You can cut with scissors. It takes a little bit longer, but who cares, right? And you can cut with a rotary cutter. If you're a quilter, the roller cutter, you can cut with that too. That works great. So you need material, you need a cutter, you need a hook. I sell a really inexpensive hook. I think it's $12 or $13 on Ribbon Candy Hooking. It's a primitive hook. I use it all the time. I hook with it 99% of the time, more than that, and it works great. It's a Joan Moshimer brand hook. Easy peasy. And the last thing that you might need is a frame. Now, in the story, Emma's husband builds a frame. That would be a floor frame. Most of us don't use floor frames now because they take up a lot of room. And for lazy people like me, I like to sit on the couch with it on my lap. So I bought a frame in the end, but frames will run between $60 and a couple $1,000, depending on what kind of frame you're going for. You can also start on a hoop, like a quilter's hoop, but if you do that, just be aware that with rug hooking as opposed to punch needle, you're pulling up every loop. You're pulling up, and there's nothing to push down on. You're holding your hoop and you're pulling up, so your hoop's pulling up with you each time. It's going to make it harder. It's definitely going to make it harder. So if you approach it that way, just know that in using a hoop, it's a lot harder than using a frame. A frame has a stepped bottom you can put on your lap, and you can kind of lean on it and pull. Give it counter weight so that the pulling is easier. You go faster, and it's just easier, and it seems to come out better. If you want an idea for a rug hooking frame, I would go on Etsy and Google rug hooking frame. Sort by price. There are some small rectangular frames that are in the high 50s, early 60s of dollars with the comb around the edges. Just get that one. You'll be using it forever. Whether you decide to make floor size rugs, for a mansion after that, that's something else. But if you end up buying one of these sort of rectangular, medium, at least 12 by something frame or a little bit larger, you'll never get rid of that frame. You'll use that. You'll travel with it when you stay in different places. You'll always use it. It's worth $60. So those are found on Etsy. So hopefully that helps you get started. I'm seeing your comments that you enjoyed that little story. I think it was super sweet. I long for and search for and pray for and dream for 1111 Wish. Help me find more of these books that have references to rug hooking, contemporary references in the 20th century. It is so sweet to find something that descriptive where somebody's talking about the process of doing it, not just the supplies, but also talking about the decision making, choosing what images to put on what stairs, and that funny anecdote on the middle step, the one that's right on eye level next to Welcome with her forsythia bush that looks more like an apple tree. You don't have to be a great artist. You can be Grandma Moses, and this is folk art, so it really doesn't matter. But I think it's sweet that the one step that she chose to do turned into kind of a pig's breakfast design-wise. Doesn't really matter. And man, would I love to see this rug. Would I love to find this rug. I hope somebody has not thrown it away over the years. I wonder if it's still in the family. I guess it's worth trying to figure it out. But Baily's a pretty common last name, isn't it? I'll do some research and see what I could find out. I'd love to see a photograph of this rug. There isn't one in the book, just the drawing I put in Coffee Time. But I hope you enjoyed that. I think it was not only sweet and quaint, but I think it had some information that for us was useful and interesting. Oh, good, Laura, thank you. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. There won't be a lot of story times like that until I find something else. If you know a book that has a reference, please let me know because I love to share these little things. They're so much fun. I'll show you the book one more time. Sold to the Lady in the Green Hat. Such a happy thing to read. Such an enjoyable book. 1962. So anyway, I will not see you tomorrow for coffee time. I will be on Zoom. Oh, you're welcome, Martha. I will be on Zoom at noon Eastern Standard Time. The information is in the description of this video, and I'm also going to post it on the Facebook group, Raw Cooking and Punch Needle Club. Please like, comment, subscribe, everything you can do to help the channel go. And I will see you on Friday for cocktail night. It'll be about an hour-long cocktail night, starting at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and I'll be posting the link to that. In the meantime, if you have some funny one-liners, funny sayings, proverbs, any kind of sayings that don't have bad words, I will take and I can use for Friday night. Have a great afternoon. Hopefully I see you for Zoom tomorrow. If not, oh, I'm so glad, Holly. If not, I will see you on Friday at cocktail night. And in the meantime, have a great day and have a great tomorrow, and we will catch up on Friday night. Take care. I will see you soon.